Is the Polygon Siskiu T7 the best budget-friendly trail bike? After 1 year of testing, I made this video to answer just that question. The 2021 Siskiu T range got a lot of new updates from 2020 models, and I'm going to break this video down into those 6 main components: the frame and geometry, suspension, setup, specifications, riding and durability. These will all be in the video's chapters, as well as listed below in the description. The new updates with the frame and geometry mean the Siskiu T range is up to date with the latest trends in mountain biking. The Siskiu T7, which is the cheaper of the two T-series bikes, comes in at 2,700 AED or 1,900 USD, and the Siskiu T8, which has slightly higher specs, comes in at 3,500 AED or 2,400 USD. Both bikes come with more specific sizing, with the smaller medium-sized frames coming with 27.5-inch wheels and 150mm of front travel and 140mm at the rear. The medium to extra large frames have 29-inch wheels, which do sacrifice some of the suspension, meaning they come with 140mm at the front and 135mm of travel at the rear. Both bikes have aluminium alloy frames, which means they are a bit heavier than carbon bikes, with the T7 coming in at 15.6 kilos and the T8 coming in at 15.1 kilos, but that's what you can expect in this price range. The geometry on this bike is also nice, especially for a doodle trail bike like this. I'm 165 centimeters, so I found the 460mm reach on the 27.5-inch medium perfect for me. The effective seat angle is 76 degrees, which is pretty steep, so if you're standing up, it does give you a lot of room to move around. The head tube angle is also nice and slack at 65 degrees on small and medium frames and 65.5 degrees on medium to extra large frames. The chainstays on this bike are short too, being 425mm on the 27.5-inch bikes and slightly larger at 430mm on the 29-inch bikes. The seat tubes are nice and short as well, being 400mm on small and medium sizes, 415 on large and 430 on extra large. This does mean that the bikes have longer drop posts, with 150mm on the 27.5-inch bikes and 170mm on the 29-inch bikes. The standover height is also low, which means you can move the bike around a lot. That, combined with the low BB height, means that you feel like you're in the bike rather than on top of it. I think that overall Polygon has done really well with the geometry, and I wouldn't change much about it, especially at this price point. The suspension on this bike feels great, and I don't understand why the single pivot suspension system gets so much hate, because I've had a great experience with it. Although this system does have slightly high anti-rise, it's never caused any issues for me. There were changes to the kinematics compared to the older models, which is mainly for the added room for the new water bottle cage. It did bring some good changes, like the 10% increase of anti-squat, which means the suspension is a bit harder when you're out of the saddle, especially on the climbs. The suspension itself was improved, with the 2020 models having X-Fusion shocks, which got very bad reviews, and it looks like Polygon listened by adding a RockShox shock on the 2021 model. They now also come with custom tuned shocks that have a lighter compression tune, which gives the rider a lot of customization to adjust the progression of the shock, especially with compression spaces. I personally haven't added any space to the fork or the shock, but I would recommend it because the forks especially do seem to go through the travel quite easily. Even without any space, the suspension is still great. It's nice and smooth over the bumps, but still provides support when you're pushing against it. Once you get the setup dialed on this bike, it really does provide a much better experience when you're riding. I weigh about 48 kilos and I have my sag set just above 25% at 95 PSI on my shock, and because I like my forks a bit harder, I have them set at 110 PSI. Concerning rebound, on the forks I ran 1 click slower than the fast setting, and on the shock I'd ran 2 clicks slower. In terms of compression, I have the forks wide open, and because the shock only has 2 adjustments, I have that the same. Since I put high pressure in the forks, I haven't had any issues with fork dive, but I have learned that the hard way. The Siskiu T7 really is a value-packed dual suspension mountain bike. The money has been spent where you want it, and that's in the suspension and the drivetrain. The 150mm Recon RL forks have worked really well and soak up the bumps like a monster. The 140mm RockShox Deluxe Select Plus is really smooth and it soaks up the bumps really well as well. The Shimano Dior CS drivetrain is also really nice, with a range of 10 to 51 teeth on the cassette. The cassette also has a new Hyperglide Plus technology, which means it changes smoothly even under pressure. The 150mm Trans-X drop post on my size medium is also good, even as more of the budget components. There is, however, a bit of side-to-side movement in the dropper, and the lever is a bit flimsy, but it's still great to see a good length dropper at this price point. My bike came with 2.6-inch Schwalbe hand-stamped tyres, but it's supposed to come with WTB trail bosses, so I can't really say much on those. The hand-stamped tyres are really good on the off-road, but the front wheel does slip a bit on the concrete, but again, that's not what they're made for. They do provide a bit of resistance when rolling, so especially if you're going to go on the road, I would suggest a tyre with slightly smaller knobs, like the Maxxis Icon, which I have tested, and they're really good in between between tyre. The wheel set was also really good for this price point, coming tubeless tape from factory, which means you just need to add sealant and valves to make it tubeless. They are a bit heavy at 2.5 kilos, but a better wheel set at this price point is asking a lot. Moving on to the brakes, we have Tektro HD M735s with 4-piston up front and 2-piston at the rear. The resin-only pads and rotors aren't the best, and that's just a budget thing, but they still do provide good braking power. Onto the finishing kit, the grips are really nice, and the half-waffle design is by far my favourite style, as it provides a softer area for your thumbs, but a little bit of a harder, grippier area for the outside of your hand. They are also solid and don't move around on the bars at all because they are lock-on. The pedals are just unbranded flat pedals with pins, but they are really grippy and I really like them. The black paint on them isn't the best and it does peel off a bit, but that doesn't affect the performance. The seat is decent, but could be a good upgrade as my bum did start to hurt after a full day of riding. The main downside is the plastic at the back, which catches your shorts a bit when moving around. I found the stem and the bars to be really good, as I prefer a shorter stem and straighter bars, but that's just up to personal preference. Riding the Siskiu T7 has been a really good experience with only a few minor downsides. When you climb on the T7, it feels a lot lighter than the 15.5 kilo weight that it is. The steep seat angle also makes you get up over the cranks, which makes it easier on steep ascents. The stable pedaling platform, thanks to the increased anti-squat, also helps a lot when riding. To reduce on the pedal bob, I lock out the forks and I put the shock on the harder setting. I found the stack to be a good height too because it made it a bit easier to weight the front end a bit when climbing. The downside is that the 170mm cranks are quite long, which does make it a little bit easy to pedal strike. When descending, the 65-degree head angle and 460mm reach gives you a lot of move. When descending, the 65-degree head angle and the 460mm reach gives you a lot of room to shift your weight back behind the wheel and gives you a bit of stability when going faster on the trails. The suspension keeps the bike composed off-road, and there is a lot of bottom-out resistance for the bigger drops. Although, once you start getting repeated bigger bumps, that's when the bike starts to feel a bit overwhelmed. After nearly a year of riding and testing, the Siskiu T7 has held up well to the elements. There's been no premature wear on the seat bushings or bearings, but I did have to re-grease the headset as it was a bit clicky from factory, but that was a really easy job. I did also have to tighten a few wheel spokes, but I do put that down to general wear. Other than that, I've only scratched the bottom of the forks, but that was entirely my fault. Overall, I think this bike has held up to its expectations and it serves its purpose well as a trail bike. I'd recommend it to people who are progressing in mountain biking, as I don't think it will hold you back at all, and it definitely has a lot of capability. It has the quality, value, and most importantly, it's fun to ride. I think the bike is almost perfect as it is, and if it were to get any longer and slacker, it would start to destroy its versatility. If you want to see my review of this bike when I first got it, check out this review right here. And if you want to see a review on the Merida BIG.NINE 3000, which by the way is a really good bike, check out this review right here. If you have any comments or suggestions, let me know in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a good day, please leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Although this system does have